picks it up. I think it might. And then if you guys want to take a second and share it to your pages or whatever you want to do, and then I'll do the same, and then we can get rolling.
Sweet. Can we actually do it right here?
Do it on your phone is the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
And now we're live.
So to do that, I go. Sorry.
That's okay. You're fine.
Bald Avenger, right?
The Bald Avenger. Yeah, here the Bald Avenger page. We're live right now, and I'm gonna go there and share it to the pages.
And Paul, the best way to share this is?
I'm just sharing it to my personal page.
Yeah.
And to do that, I
go to the Bald Avenger page and then scroll down and you'll see where we're live right now while people are watching us figure out how to share this.
This is the educational series, you know?
Yeah.
If you have gray hair, this is what it looks like. Millennials don't have this problem.
Took a lot of work to get us here. We want to make sure it's documented on as many pages as possible.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, all of us having a little bit of time in our schedules of a unique scenario, right?
Totally.
Okay. How exciting.
I think we are all shared. Let's see. So I need to open this up and go here to mute it. There we go. That way I can keep an eye on the comments. And we'll just see what it looks like over here. I see Bobby Gallegos is on there laughing at us already.
I could hear him in the background before we were. Time delay.
He's loving it. Loving it, loving it, loving it.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, I think we are ready to roll. So I'll open this one on here. Oops, that's wrong. Okay, cool. All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Bald Avenger. I am Jason Cisneros, the Bald Avenger, the tattooed guru, the purveyor of all things common sense, and the legend in my own mind. Loving this show. I am excited about today. These guys that you're about to be introduced to, some of you know them if you're in my circle because we're quite close, family close. The issue is that we're all busy doing our own thing sometimes. So we never know when we're going to get to see each other. So this is an absolute treat. Even, you know, again, for the audience, for those of you that are listening on the different platforms, for those of you that are watching live right now and on YouTube, you can see they're both better looking than I am, which pisses me off a little bit, but that's okay. But I want to just give you guys an intro to who you're looking at here and why today's episode is going to be important. These two are two of the most, the organization they run, the Mandino Leadership Institute, the Blanchard Leadership Institute, the Habit Finder that's been created. These two have dedicated their entire life to the art and science, right? There's two of them, the art and science of leadership. They're who I turn to. Again, I don't recommend very many coaching programs out there, but when I do, it's these guys. And it's not just because of them as an individual. It's because those of you that know and understand, if you're gonna do something great in life, what you've got to do is you've got to have a system and a process, so that leads to maximum flexibility in you adding in your own personality, adding in your own beauty, the unique thing that you bring to the world. If you can get that system, right? It's like the copying. I was telling a bunch of people this morning, guys, about the fact that I busted into success through the back door and I beat my way through people that didn't want me to be there and didn't want to see me succeed. Wasn't the right last name, wasn't the right area code, didn't come from the right background, been in and out of jail, all that kind of stuff to get to a place where I'm at. And what you do is you pick up little clues along the way. And the thing I love about you guys is what you've done is you've taken those, and Paul has worked with Jack Welch. Anybody that knows anything about business or leadership knows and understands. And they chose Paul to run his training organization. I'll let them tell a little bit about themselves here in just a second. But that's the quality and standard of the people that we're talking to today. And then what they've done is, and why we're in alignment is because in comparison to what I call out there in the world, the douchepreneurs, right? The guys that picked up a book and all of a sudden they're an expert and they're going to sell you, tell you how to make high-end sales and, they're business expert and they give you a lot of great business advice from their perspective. And it actually does harm to your life, to your business, to your health, to those types of things. This is a real deal. And what they've done is taken a lifetime prior, even to Dave, who's got some wisdom hairs there, even prior to him with the Mandino scrolls and that type of thing. And they've dedicated their life to turning back around and leaving those crumbs of leadership and into a coaching program that helps you excel in whatever it is that you are in, whatever you're pursuing for your own life. They don't pick it for you. They don't tell you what you're going to do. It's just the how to, right? Which is very similar to what we do on the business side of things. And those of you that know and understand what I do in business, these are the guys, when I have an executive that I want some one-on-one attention with, these are the guys that I send them to. And as we're doing, corporate turnarounds and change management and mergers and all the other stuff that we do at Anton J. So I'm excited to introduce you guys. We've got several books that they're going to talk about that they've written. And at the end of it, they've got a gift for you for something that they created. And I'll let them talk about that as well, called the Habit Finder, and the math and the science and the wisdom and the really, almost otherworldly information that gives you. So anyway, I'll shut up as much as I possibly can, but let's start out with you, Paul. Just go ahead and introduce yourself. Anything that I missed. Thank you both for being here on the show. People are going to get a lot of value out of this conversation. So Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. No, super honored to be here. Excited to be here. As Jason mentioned, subtly, but totally legit, family close. I mean, this is my big bald brother right here. And definitely a big part of our family, professionally and personally. And I'll make it quick. I came into the entrepreneurial realm under the guidance of my dad, who's been an entrepreneur his entire life. He led me to the first company I started doing work with as an entrepreneur in real estate investing and education. And I was like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do my own thing. And so I went full circle into all kinds of other things, coaching, consulting, trying to figure out my own shtick. But it always had been rooted in what he does here. It had been rooted in the principles of Mandino, of leadership, of the art and the science of what he's poured into this company over the last almost 20 years. And then 2008 hit. My entrepreneurial career was ended. I didn't have much choice in the matter. And I went into higher education, which led me to helping Jack Welch build his executive MBA program, which I'm happy to report is one of the top 25 in the world now. And then I mentioned to my dad, I just felt like it was time to move into the next thing. And we were just casually talking. And I let him know that I was thinking about moving on from that position. And he said, well, that's interesting. I just happen to be looking for a partner that I can trust. I said, awesome. Good luck with that. But then we spoke, really spoke heavily for the next 4 or 5 weeks. And it just dominoes started to fall. Things started to click. And it just made all the sense in the world. I looked at my career and what I had created. I had even gotten my dad involved with some of the teams that I built in the Jack Welch Management Institute, just because of what the power of what we do brings to this. And so I surrendered and said, yeah, I'll move back across the country and see if we can make this work. And that was almost 5 years ago. And it was the best decision I could have made. I mean, the first year was rough. I'm not going to lie. Any of you who work with family know exactly what I'm talking about. Trying to, you have masterful ways of pushing each other's buttons and understanding how each other work and stuff. But man, it's unbelievable to get to do what we do. More importantly, to get to do what I do with my dad. So it's pretty awesome.
Love that. Dave, why don't you give us a brief background of your long and storied career?
Oh my goodness. First thing, Paul posed the question before he came. He said, am I coming to work for you or am I coming to work with you? And I said, you're coming to work with me. And that was part of it. He was saying the first year he came to save me and then he found out I wasn't savable. So it's just so good to be here with, I had to say something about Paul. He cut his teeth on these principles when we were growing up, and Mandino's been a part of our life for a long time. before. We had the privilege of taking these principles in the 21st century. There are times, Jason, and you know this because you've worked with Paul, when I'm intimidated.
I'm only intimidated by the size of his head, not anything else. His skill sets at ping pong and stuff are just really lacking. So,
yeah,
what does that say about yours?
Non-existent.
So those of you know, Paul's 6'5" and 305 and has a 38-inch waist. So he's a monster of a guy.
And a 32-inch head.
He's everybody's go-to when they want to move something, right? Oh, it's just so good to have him here. Because we all look at a business like this for that opportunity to have somebody come on board who shares a love for these principles at a depth that you can trust. I want to be able to trust that if I weren't here today, if I died yesterday and I wasn't here, I just have great confidence Paul could take this and run with it and take it to higher heights. And I'm just so excited about being in a relationship with a son of all things, but with a son who shares this passion. And Jason, you'll appreciate this. I used to say, I come in earlier than everybody else and I work longer than everybody else. Somebody works as hard as Paul comes in before I do and leaves after I do and works harder than I do. And that's pretty hard.
Yeah.
So it's just
you lost that pedestal, huh?
There you go. That's why he has the office on the top floor. So
there you go.
Of our office building. So anyway, it's just great to have him here. For me, this has been an interesting journey. Started out in financial services, zeroed in on doctors and attorneys because they seem to have the money, and business owners. So, had a wonderful career in the insurance business and financial services business. Then started in real estate. I was investing my money in real estate because that seemed to be the best place to put it. And then all of a sudden clients were saying, gosh, could we join you? And pretty soon we're building 100-unit apartment complexes. And then 1989 happened in California and the world fell apart. Mm-hmm. And I was the corporate guarantor. So, $1 million of debt was put on my shoulders after millions of dollars went through our fingers like water, and spent the next 10 years paying that back. And then a new career as a filmmaker, writer, director, something I was doing as an avocation before then. We did a series, for example, on child abuse called Come In From the Storm. That was on every military base in the world, every Department of Defense school system worldwide, and 30,000 school districts in the U.S. and Canada and New Zealand, Australia. We were changing the world, a cause-oriented kind of thing. And I thought, oh, gosh, I really like that. I think I'm going to do that for a living. Mm-hmm. And one of the last feature film scripts I wrote was for one of Aug's books, and developed a great relationship with Betty. Aug had passed away the year before. And so when the rights to The Greatest Salesman came available, Betty called me, and I was in New York shooting commercials for CNBC. And it was January 2000, Y2K didn't happen. The world didn't fall apart. We were all there, blizzard, it was freezing cold, and we're standing in the cancellation line of The Lion King. And she calls and said, Dave, the rights to The Greatest Salesman are not being renewed. Would you be interested? And I went, is this a rhetorical question, Betty? She said, no, really, I wanted to call you first. And I said, absolutely. We cut the deal standing in line. Mm-hmm. Our attorney in California, her attorney in New York, who was in the same city I was in at the time, and the publisher down in Florida, Fell Publishing, and we worked out the details and came home and left the film business and dedicated the last 19 years of my life to bringing something I love, principles, into the lives of people. I do want to share one thing I rarely share, Jason. Mm-hmm. And that was that 3 years into that process, after hiring the very best to turn this, Og Mandino's 10 Scrolls into a training program, it just wasn't working because it just wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to my God and saying, I didn't spend 10 years paying back all that debt to be back here again. What's going on? And I had an interesting comment. I felt impressed to share this because those watching this, it's important for you to hear this. God said, Dave, I prepared you to write this. And I said, what have I got to say? But we began the process, and some marvelous things have happened. And Paul's been a big part of that the last 5 years of taking a science, the axiological science. It's a formal mathematical science, uses Cantor's transfinite calculus, which we could all three agree we hated in school, right?
Yeah.
But I fell in love with this, with the calculus, as it allows us to measure very accurately a way a person thinks, their habits of thinking. And as Paul has so adeptly said, this is the headwater. That's what he calls it, the headwater. This is the headwater. It's where everything starts, our habits of thinking, which go to our emotions and our memorized emotions, our personality, all the way down to our current behaviors. And if we want to find out how to make improvement in our life, we got to go back to the source, and that's the habit of thinking that's been driven by our life. So we've been able to, with a couple $1 million and 19 years, perfected the ability to measure how somebody thinks. It's the first time this has really been available at this level. And then we've got obviously the training programs supported by Mandino's 10 scrolls. And then the principles that came in that I learned through a very thorough education of 10 years of digging out of darkness, and with an absolute determination to help everybody else dig out, where we can teach them how to connect with people and how to use their mind properly instead of going into fantasy and catastrophe, and actually making the changes necessary to create real and lasting change in their life. And then we've taken that to another level. We were just in a meeting about using this habit finder. We've been in development for a couple of years on a tool that can be used for hiring to measure habits of thinking. So, this best candidate standing in front of you that seems to be perfect, we don't want to denigrate perfection. We just want to get to the issues that will show up 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or what cause us to want to fire them. Let's deal with those right then. Same thing with annual reviews, same thing with a team DNA, to find out where are the common thought processes within a team so that management can take on the 2 or 3 and train to those and get the most bang for their dollar in that organization. Because you can't do everything, but you can do 3. Let's find out what they are and help an organization move. So we're just very excited about what we're doing. And everything in my life prepared me for this moment in time. And I look at Paul's life, and everything in his life prepared him for this moment in time. So it's just a great moment. And
yeah, well, I love both of you. And when I want to address a couple of things that you just brought up there. One is that on the mastery side, right? 19 years. And this is important, because today, with the economy being the way that it is, and there's more opportunity, and there's low unemployment, and there's a lot of really, really great things that are happening out there. What you want to do is you want to position yourself in your career, whether you're a business owner, an employee, you're running a 501c3, whatever the position that you happen to be in. One of the things where you want to get teaching from is people who go deep and not wide, right? You want to go with people. And when I came across you guys, and we started talking about, you guys bringing in Anton J business principles to what you guys are doing, what I ran across was one of the most undervalued assets that I've ever come across in your business, because a lot of companies are out there and they're trying to sell people, and that's what they're good at. They're really, really good at selling people. They're really good. Oh, get the funnel. And then, they con people is essentially what it is. It's a funnel con where they funnel people down, and, and they're da-da-da-da-da. And then at the end of it, what you have to do is fill up the back of the top of the funnel again, because you've ran through a bunch of people that paid you and didn't get delivery on the service, right? You guys have a reverse funnel where you have more people that you've helped, more people that you have genuinely improved their life through, like you said, axiological math, through the, finding out those things that you can actually apply in your own world that aren't fortune cookies. They are specifically tailored to who you are, where you are in the moment, right? And a lot of times that, going back to the second thing that I wanted to address, you guys go deep, but then you're also dealing with the problem that is, not the problem that isn't, right? That's in my language. You guys are driving down, because if your problem is that you've got to, if you're bodybuilding and your problem is that you've got to develop your biceps to be able to compete in that next level of competition. And what you're doing is you're doing a bunch of leg exercises because it feels comfortable, and that's where you feel comfortable. Then you're going to go to that next competition, you're going to lose, right? And so what you guys are doing, and what everybody should take away from that message, is that you've got to find out what the issue is. The issue, I promise you, is not Democrats, Republicans, black, white, gay, straight, all of those things. That's not the challenge. The challenge lies in the person who's facing you in the mirror. And the better you get to know that person, the faster you can get down to dealing with the problem that is. And that's what you guys do the best of anybody that I've ever seen, because you've got to deal with that problem that is, and you're dealing with experts. You know, mastery, that book, Mastery is 19 years of focusing on human performance and execution and empowerment, right? That's what you have here. So I just wanted to address those two things as we go along, because you guys say a lot of really great things, and I have to stop and put them into language I can understand.
Well, it's interesting. One of the deciding factors, Jason, for me to come over and be a part of this, and the most exciting factor of the last 5 years, has been that when you get as far upstream as you can get with a human being to their thinking, you realize that our thinking determines our reality, plain and simple. And one of the most liberating, most frustrating, most celebrated, and difficult principles to understand is that your reality, yours being anyone's reality, is not the reality. I mean, we're sitting back watching people today play reality bumper cars at an incredible rate. And sometimes it's a head-on collision into someone else's reality, and we just fight for it. You know, we play rock.
It's my truth.
Yeah.
Speak your truth. What?
Yeah. We'll throw something at them. They throw something bigger back at us. So we drop something bigger on them. And then even worse, we'll come to somebody's reality and be like, oh, that must be the reality. So we'll totally surrender our own moral authority, be like, that's the reality, and try to jump into theirs. And rather than just becoming really good at what we want to do, to be experts in any industry, and that is to understand first that your reality is not the reality, and then to want to understand everybody else's reality, not to prove them wrong, not to prove that you're right, to understand it. Because when you've got people in your business, no matter the industry, clients, customers, employees, managers, and they feel understood, they feel like their reality matters, then you are in the strongest position there possibly can to be a leader. A leader is not someone who's great at just persuading people to surrender their reality and come into yours. A leader is someone who is a master of the experience business and understanding how they are being experienced. And the best way to be experienced is for someone to feel like you understand them. Not that you agree with them, that you understand them. A couple huge differences in that kind of conversation.
Huge differences. And again, going back to that point, to add on to that point, is the fact that you judge leadership by the people. You get what you see on Facebook, and where people's realities are dealing with somebody else's facade. You have people that are genuinely interested in improving their lives, and then they go to Facebook and they're like, oh my gosh, this person's in front of a helicopter and it looks like they're doing all these wonderful things, right? But when you dive in, there's true leadership to me means when you look around that person or that company or that 501c3, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's not about the leader, it's who is benefiting around them in their direct influence, right? And so that's where I look at you guys being the real deal, is because so many people around you are succeeding, right? And a byproduct, the great equalizer in this world is called business. And it's that you're playing, I'm playing, we're all playing the same game as Bill Gates. And the great equalizer says we have the same 24 hours, we're playing the same games, the rules are all the same. And you just have to figure out, just like football or basketball or whatever it is, you got to figure out what the rules of that success are. And if I want to know those rules, do I want to go to somebody who read a book about it and has a marketing budget that's the hottest thing on Facebook right now? Or do I want to go to a company that is 19 years committed and then probably 30 or 40 years of Og's life combined? So that's a good 50 years of combined knowledge. and then Jack Welch principles and all of the other stuff. Where do I want to go for the information that I'm looking for? You know, I want to go where success leaves clues, and I want those right success. I want to pick up those clues that matter.
I think Stephen R. Covey in his book, Speed of Trust, really nailed it.
Yep.
I mean, because our whole business is built on trust with the client, right?
Amen.
Intention.
Yep.
Are we really in this together? Integrity. Do we walk our talk? And Paul's always talking about waking up in the morning and saying, am I worthy to do this today? In other words, am I grounded? Am I present? Am I really there? That integrity. Ability. Is the ability there? Is the price been paid? Is the expertise actually present? And you just said it. Number 4 is results. What do the results say?
Right.
What do the results say? And we have to smile, Jason, because one of the reasons we fell in love with you is because you approach business consulting the way we approach getting behind that facade, which we don't want to crush someone's facade. That's not the point. It's just not what's real. What's really real? What are the thought processes going on? And you're going, what's the business practices going on really behind in terms of system structure, et cetera? Mm-hmm. and you just cut right through to all of that for us. And we love to do that for other people, to cut right through to those thought processes and how are they driving their business and driving their life and making those changes. So
you got to deal with reality, no matter how painful it is. You know, I don't care about the story, right? Business owners and leaders that you guys deal with, business owners and leaders of any kind, are dealing with the fact that the world needs them to appear that they know what they're doing, right? They need them to appear like they know what they're saying. And so with their church, with their family, with their wife, husband, with their kids, with their employees, with their customers, they have to put on that front. And what they need is people, you know, gentle souls like you and less gentle souls like me to go and go, look, I know that's a facade. Okay. So let me just come around here and let me see back here, because I know if we restructure a couple of these things, then that facade you're putting on is going to be the truth rather than a facade. Right.
Do we focus on polishing the image, or do we get to the real stuff?
Well, you either polish the truth or you polish a turd. Right. I guess we should have put a precursor in here for your audience, the people that are watching from yours. But this is Jason Cisneros, not the Blanchards show. When I come on yours, I'll be a little bit more gentle.
Oh, we're sharing this with mine. So
I know. Yeah. Well,
but I am laughing, so that's good.
Yeah, good. So let me ask you guys, let's move the conversation ahead just a little bit. After 19 years, and I want you to think about this from a perspective of maybe some recent, you know, because here's what I know. After a long period of time, right? Because you learn from your failures, then you learn from other people, you learn from the people that you work with, and then your business is giving you feedback. And at some point in time, if you're into studying mastery, and if you're into being committed to mastery, what happens is there's a level of innovation that happens because you've been committed to the basics and the principles for so long that something appears because of innovation, because it's a reward for years and years and years of staying committed to your craft. Okay. And so I want you guys to think about this in your most recent thinking, not things that you've taught before, but to add value to here, I want you to think of one concise answer to the following question. Okay. If I had one leadership principle to teach, what would it be? And I'm going to start with you, Paul. Based on your best thinking, even if it's not socially acceptable, I don't care. What I want to know is if you were put on an island and you said, you know, the fate of the world rests in Paul or Dave's head, to say, I can speak one principle and teach on it to the people that are going to go out and repopulate the world or save the world or whatever it is. What would be that piece of advice for them, Paul?
Oh, that's hard. They're like, my brain gets flooded with like 30 of them. And so
right. I know that.
You did say not the stuff we teach constantly, because people are going to get that anyway. Mm-hmm. like candidly, what just popped in my head?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. First thought.
The first thought that popped in my head, just because it's been a really hot topic with some of the top leaders that I've been coaching with, is learn to be okay with being selfish. Running into so many people that are wasting so much energy pretending they're not selfish. Or even worse, that they're not supposed to be selfish. When you really get into the biology and the chemistry of how we're built to be selfish. We're built to be narcissistic. Personal development is really selfish. It's self-development.
All my ex-girlfriends, listen to that for a second. Every one of you that's called me narcissistic. See, I was supposed to be.
But then we get terms like that we use to label extreme cases of when it's like way overdone.
Yeah.
But then we feel like it's either overdone or shouldn't be done at all. But there's so much power in leadership to realize there's some selfish, ego, narcissistic things about me. And I'm okay with that. Not because I'm going to just let them run rampant, not because I'm going to let them sabotage my leadership, but because if I'm okay with it, I get to spend the energy I used to be spending pretending that wasn't part of who I am. And now I get to spend that time actually doing something about it and doing something with it and being aware of it. There's a lot of beauty to letting go of the energy of resistance and rebellion and really deciding to, I shared this a week ago, I think, in Endgame, Thor is taught this amazing lesson. If you haven't seen it, I won't tell you who teaches it, so it doesn't spoil what happens. But he was taught to stop being who you're supposed to be and be who you are. And part of who we are is ego and selfish, but just part of it. But even pretending that little part isn't there makes it so much more destructive. I remember a mentor of mine, Brian Christie, who's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. I was in an elevator with him, and he goes, "Paul, you got a huge ego." This was like 12 years ago. I was like, no, because I just had a conflict with a team that I was managing, and he was over me. And I was like, no, there's total misunderstanding. I was just trying to have fun and da-da-da-da. And he's like, "Paul, stop. He's like, it's pretending that you don't that's getting you in so much trouble. It's feeling like you're not supposed to have an ego that's creating so many of your problems and energy of overcompensating and all this different stuff that I wasn't even conscious of because I thought I wasn't supposed to have an ego. I thought I wasn't supposed to be selfish. No, you're just not supposed to be all ego, all selfish. You can be ego passenger, just don't be ego driven. But that doesn't mean you need to kick it out of the car entirely. So many great perspectives as a leader when you embrace all that is naturally human, but not surrender to it. Just embrace it. There's a big difference. So that's the first thing that popped in my head when you asked.
I love that. And let me, on that point, I will tell you, you guys know all the work that I do in philanthropy, right? And the selfish part of me, because I've made my money, right? And the selfish part of me drives me because when I go out, we did this thing in Atlanta with the Power of We with, 250 inner city kids, right? The rescues, the feeding, the domestic violence, all that kind of stuff feeds my soul, right? It's that energy that I feel like it's just creating a bigger and bigger beast of service. And I'm a competitive guy, right? I mean, it's not like I'm equating this to how it hits me just a little bit because everybody's like, "Oh, you're so selfless," right? You're so selfless because you're doing all this stuff. And the idea behind it is that it feeds my soul so that I can do more of it. Like it's what fires me up. It's what lights me up. Everybody is worried about what keeps you up at night. I don't give a shit what keeps you up at night because that's what you shouldn't be worrying about. What I care about is what's going to get you up in the morning, right? What gets you up and just makes you go, let's do this today, right? And so that's the selfish side is I get that feedback, man, when I'm putting into that community or those communities or whatever it is, that feedback of being of service and being somebody who's easing suffering in the world feeds my soul. And so that's the selfish side of why I do what I do. It's amazing, brother. Thank you. Dave, what was your thing that popped into your head?
Well, I think one of the most fascinating things we've discovered doing all of these assessments, and we've done 150,000 of them, and I've debriefed 7,000 of them myself. So, it's like 12,000 hours.
And only one live, by the way.
Yeah, with Jason. There we go. But one of the great discoveries is not the challenges, not the unhealthy habit of thinking. It's the gift that someone is not embracing, owning the natural genius, if you will. And I have so much fun when I find someone who's got this beautiful natural genius. It's like, do you ever procrastinate? Oh, yeah, I do. What happens when you stop procrastinating? You hit a deadline, you have to jump in. Do you ever say, wow, that wasn't so hard? Yeah. Well, you finally shut off the noise and embrace the genius. And it's so incredible. Even you're surprised, which means we're robbing everyone, including ourselves and everyone else around us, of our greatest gifting. Greatest leadership principle to me is don't focus on your weaknesses. See those as impediments. Let's just get rid of those that are keeping us from our gifting, from our natural strength. Because to own our genius, root word genus, which is the same root word of genuine, is to be genuine, to bring all of our gifting fully to the service of another person. Otherwise, we are robbing ourselves and them of all that we could bring to serve them. Ego, I would say there's not ego in that process of owning your genius. Now, we live in a world where maybe I'm supposed to be humble. And I go, well, I happen to believe that if I have genius, God was the one who gave me the gift, right? So I'm giving him credit for the gift, but I'm taking responsibility for magnifying it.
And acting,
because if I'm not, I'm going, well, that's him. That's not him. That's the gift. But if that's him, I don't have to be responsible for it. I can go, oh, I can play with it every once in a while, my pretty little pet, but how about if I just own it and I take it to the world and I create something magnificent with that blesses the lives of many people. And that's what I take back to his throne and say, Lord, this is what I did with what you gave me. Because he'll say, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Make you Lord over many. Or enter into the joy of the Lord. We are supposed to take our gifts and use them. He gives them to us. Our gift to him is to use them in the service of his children. This is a major, major problem today, because either we're dealing with, I'm just egotistical, that's who I am. And then there are others are going, well, I need to be humble, don't I? This is what Paul was talking about, falsely humble. How about if I just own it? I just own the genius and bring it to the service of other people. Real, genuine, authentic relationships, owning that gifting, true self. Wow, if we could show up in that space.
I own my dirty mouth. So, hey, okay. So let's move on. Great. So that's the two things that you would learn on a deserted island with these two. Okay. Next thing that I think, and have you guys seen the movie Glass yet?
No, we just watched the second one.
Okay. So
you have Unbroken. We watched that one.
Split.
Just finished watching Split.
Yeah. So, and I'm not going to give the movie away, but what I will tell you is in the movie Glass, one of the things that was obvious to me was that you have three different individuals, right? You have the guy with the bone disease that turns into a mastermind. You have the guy that has the split personalities that can become a beast, right? Or a brilliant person or whatever. There's a split personalities. And then you have the unbreakable or unbreakable one where the only weakness that he has is water. And so the idea behind that last episode is that there as a professional organization that exists to inject doubt into their minds and make them feel like they're reprogramming their brain so that they look at their gifts as a mental disorder, right? And so their entire organization was set up to create doubt. So I'm going to start with you on this one, Dave. Okay. Because the entire world is set up with non-performers trying to inject into hopeful performers the idea that they can't do it because the person speaking it can't do it, right? There's entire industries built up out there to make you doubt. A lot of sickness and a lot of, fibromyalgia, which a lot of doctors are saying that's a bullshit thing. They're injecting doubt. So what is the greatest tool in your mind, Dave? I'm going to ask you the same thing, Paul. What is the greatest tool if somebody realizes, hey, doubt is one of those pervasive things that exist in sheeple because they've accepted it, right? They've accepted it. What is the biggest tool that you would give someone to overcome and eliminate doubt out of their mind?
Oh my goodness. How powerful. It takes me back to an experience when I was writing Equanimity. It's 4:30 in the morning. I was up at 4 o'clock till 8 o'clock every morning for months writing the book. That's my writing time. It wasn't until I decided to take on my body, Jason, and lost 55 pounds and got in shape. And I kind of gobbled up a lot. Thank you. Yeah. Gobbled up a lot of my writing time. But anyway, the bottom line is I've been writing that morning and just had this massive download. Oh, it was incredible. I was just trying to keep up with it. And I got done. I looked up and I said, Lord, why me? Can you hear the doubt in the question? Mm-hmm. Why me? Mm-hmm. Still asking this. This was just a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And he said, what I wanted to hear was, you're brilliant. Because you're
special. You're blessed.
Yeah, I wanted to hear something like that, because when we have doubts, that's what we want to hear back, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, because you'll listen. And you'll courageously write what I tell you. And I went, that's a bummer. So the doubt still was fostering until one day I woke up and said, that is the gift. I do hear, and I do courageously speak what I hear. Jason, you do the same thing. I've watched you speak. You stand in front of a room, you have something you thought you were going to talk about, and you look into somebody's eyes, and all of a sudden, your mind is somewhere else, and you start talking, and you work your way all the way through this one inspired idea after another, and all of a sudden there's a bow tied on the end, and they walk up to you after and say, oh, that was the most amazing thing I've ever heard. And you say, yeah, me too.
I can't wait to go back and watch a recording to hear what I said.
I got to learn at the same time you got to learn it. Well, that's not a weakness.
Yeah.
That's a gift. And some people take a look at what they think is a weakness, and it turns out it actually is a gift. That's one. The other piece is where I always go when someone's in a space where they feel this way. I just say, let's go back and revisit the Chicago dream, where I'm dragging all this crap, right? And I empty the sack and I pick up the silver ball with the spikes on it. And I get asked the question, anybody else suffering from a similar wound? I don't want to shift them from doubt to some other place. I want them to get in touch with the power of feeling that. Oh my goodness, that's how it feels. Anybody else feeling this way? What would happen if you took that doubt and you put it in your heart, not as a burden you're carrying, but as an empathetic reference point, empathy, to be able to stand on somebody else's path and hear when they speak that doubt, well, do you ever feel this way? Do you ever want to do this? And have the person go, oh, finally, somebody understands me. Yeah, now the wall comes down. Their energy and cooperation flood out, and now we can have a conversation. So when I'm coaching someone about doubt, I'm just saying, wow, isn't it great you feel that? Now let's own it in our heart. Let's own it here. Let's use it as a reference point to help bless other people, get in touch with and feel understood, walls down, so that we can then share with them valuable principles. That was what came to my heart when you said that.
I love it. I love it. Really, really great information. Okay, Paul, what do you, if somebody's experiencing doubt, right? And doubt is our, I'm trying to recreate your words from a podcast I heard, or not a podcast, but a show I watched you do. But podcast is false evidence appearing real, right? False evidence appearing real. And a lot of people, the way that I've put it in my language is that a lot of people are out there worried about a bunch of things that never, ever come true. Oh. And flipping that back over, I've just set my life up to be, I'm believing a whole bunch of good stuff, which, some of it will come true, some of it won't, but I'd much rather go down that path than that path. So in your experience and in your life, that false evidence appearing real, which is the word doubt, which is an illusion. What's the best advice you would give somebody to overcome that illusion?
Certainly. So doubt actually has really similar root words to dubious, which means to be double-minded, to be uncertain and deceptive. So we got to understand there's more than one conversation going on in our head when there's doubt. And understanding the differences between those two conversations is essential to being able to do this. And those of you going, what conversation is he talking about? That one right there, where you just started having a conversation with yourself. Now, one of the challenges, though, is what we're measuring in the Habit Finder is we're not just measuring your voice, we're measuring your unhealthy habits of thinking's voice, and we want to see in those measurements which one is the dominant voice. We know from an axiological perspective what you sound like mathematically, your true voice. And we're able to see where deviations are, where this dubious, this second conversation comes in, and the risks that disparaging, that deficit creates. That deficit is where doubt comes from. Now, doubt is interesting, though, because it's a protective mechanism. The brain at its core is wired to do one thing, to keep you safe. Mm-hmm. It'll do anything it can to protect you. And one of the biggest things it tries to protect you from is judgment. Because judgment is final. If judgment is truly and realistically faced, it can be staggering for someone who is dubious, who has doubt. Because if there isn't doubt, if there isn't fear, if there isn't procrastination, if there isn't this deficit between our true voice and our unhealthy habits of thinking, which unfortunately become the dominant voice too often. And what sucks about that, Jason, as you and I know, is that your unhealthy habits of thinking don't talk to you. They talk with you. They don't say you suck. They say I suck. Right. And we hear it in our own voice. It's what creates the difficulty in understanding that there's two conversations going on. And understanding that doubt and being able to take that on, it's really critical to be able to dive into that, to understand that, okay, this is my brain protecting me from judgment, self-judgment, external judgment. Because what if I don't doubt, as my dad was just talking about, when we procrastinate and then we shut off the noise and show up? What if I put my best foot forward, my best effort consistently, and it wasn't enough?
And it fails.
And it fails. That is terrifying to someone who has to rely on doubt. Doubt is their buffer to make sure that that reality never happens. But we all three of us know here that there is no way to reach your pinnacle of success, that mountaintop that Mandino talked about in becoming the highest mountain of all, where you make your potential cry for mercy. It doesn't come until you shatter that reality that the final judgment of your effort and failing is part of the process, that you can fail and not self-destruct.
Well, really, and I've heard you say this before, Paul, really the truth is, because that's what we're all looking for, is the truth, right? The truth is that judgment or failure is not something to be avoided. The exact opposite, it's to be embraced. Yep. Right? Because it's as much a part of the process of you progressing in life, which is the same word as success, but progress is created when you embrace the failures and learn from them, and it stacks on top of itself to get you to that mountaintop that you're talking about, right? So it's as important to success as air is to breathing, right? And so not just to avoid it and to put it aside, but to go after it, to seek those things that make you uncomfortable.
And one of the challenges is that they see people like you, Jason, and go, man, Jason doesn't have any doubts. No, our doubt never goes away. It's humanly impossible to get rid of it. But doubt can be static. It'll stay here. It'll always be here. You get to determine whether you have the foresight and the action and the insight and inspiration and consistently able to take action that makes it outweigh the doubt, where, okay, I've taken action and seen what happens on the other side of the doubt enough times that it feels like the doubt is going away, but it's really staying the same. We're just increasing our ability. But what's interesting about this is our ability usually has a shelf life. And if we haven't been taking that action consistently, it just creeps back below the level of our doubt. And then we wonder, what's wrong with me? What happened? We start second guessing. We start creating a bigger deficit between those two voices. Just get back into action. That's why Mandino said, act without hesitation. It turns the lion of terror, which is doubt on steroids,
right,
into an ant of equanimity. So we're not sitting there on the edge of the precipice of our life and our potential going 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, 3 to get ready, 3, and the doubt just goes whoop, whoop, whoop. And some of us have created a huge gap that jump's going to scare the crap out of us.
Yep. Well, and here's something that you just triggered in my brain that I've never shared publicly, was that doubt, right? Because you said, oh, you have doubt. My first reaction is, kiss my ass, Paul. You know, I don't have doubt. Like that, but it triggered something else in me that says, yes, I have those doubts. And when there's this thing that says, okay, if something pops up in my head and I'm like, that's too big, like feed a billion, right? That's too big. And that doubt pops in. What I do is I tell life, prove it, because I'm going to come at you as hard as I can.
You're not afraid of the judgment. You're running for it.
Like,
I want the judgment. I want the results. Show me what could really happen here rather than being afraid of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've never shared that publicly. I don't think I've ever verbalized it publicly or even to myself, but that was the word when I very first started on the journey that I'm on. It was screaming at that void saying, prove it, prove to me. Like if I jump, prove to me that I can't make it to the other side, you know? And so many times, 90+% of the time, I make the jump. Sometimes I fall, but you know, when I fall, I pick myself up, I learn. And this is, you know, I'm just taking your message and translating it into that, you know, where that applies in a real world scenario. Okay.
Let's apply it in one that we see so commonly. Mm-hmm. We were invited to speak at an event, potential authors. People want to be authors. That's what they said. And first question I ask is, okay, who here writes 1 hour a day? There was only one hand.
Right.
I had to change my talk. I went, you don't want to be writers. You guys want to be rich.
Right.
If you want to be a writer, you write. And I watch people who say, I want to write a book, and they want to write a best-selling book on the first version. Every sentence perfectly placed all the way through the book. One write, they're done. My goodness. Today I Begin a New Life was 4 years and 5 rewrites. I mean, you give birth to something. Whether it's a business or a book or a training program. We've watched you, Jason, take stuff on, and it doesn't always go perfectly the first time, except for your comedy show. That was perfect the first time.
That wasn't a bad debut, was it?
No, that was not a bad debut.
Going into that, though, like I had tons of doubt in your comedic ability on stage.
Everybody did. Like everybody did. Everybody that was going there, I think there was the people that were like nervous for me. And then there was the people that showed up that were like, finally, this asshole is going to fail at something.
Well, I was nervous for you. And I kept laughing and laughing, and I was getting greater levels of relief. You know, like, wow, this is good. But I wanted to mention something about how we approach the world in terms of doubt and fear, because so many that we meet that want to be, they're young, they want to be entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, if they don't know something, they feel like a failure. And the three of us here, we can all agree and to share with the world. They're watching, right? Let's let them know, man, if you know it, your dream's not big enough. Right. You're not dreaming big enough. You got to have doubt and fear going into it and concern about whether I know it or not. The difference between those who are succeeding, those who aren't, and those who succeed are just sponges. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have 19 years failed forward with the Mandino group, one thing to the next, and everything we've developed was built on the foundation of the previous project. Mm. And it wasn't a total failure; it just wasn't as big a success as we wanted it to be, right? Yeah. So you do the next, and the next, and the next, and when you finally get here, and somebody says, "Man, I want their company." Yeah, but I don't think you want the 19 years we just went through. I want to write a book. I don't think you want to spend 4 years writing it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Anton Jay's built on principles over 23 years of deciding to be a master of business, right? It's 23 years, like it's 19 on what you guys are doing. You want to take that time and condense it, right? That's what intelligent people do, is they
that's
condense
what we want to
time.
be. That's what you do now. You take your 23, we take our 19 and say, don't spend 19.
Right.
But it's not going to happen overnight either. No. There's going to be these moments of doubt and fear and confusion, and it's just part of the deal.
Right.
So learn to love it, learn to embrace it. Go, okay, am I going to spend my time wallowing in this? We call snorkeling in manure. That's as close as I get to a Jasonism, right? We can spend our time snorkeling in manure, which we discover that when you get up on your knees, it was only 12 inches thick anyway, right?
Right. Well, phonetically,
we spend our time in solution. Be looking for the solution. If you keep in that space, then do you get there quicker?
Just so you know, phonetically, the S word that I would use works better with that statement. Snorkeling in she rather than manure. All right, cool. Let's move on. Okay. Let's move on. Doubt. We just dealt with doubt. We dealt with your best advice for leadership. There's something that's going on that's very pervasive in our society right now, worldwide, is that the decentralization of power is happening to centralized power structures, right? And what that's doing is it's causing panic amongst those centralized that are used to being the power, the decisions, the influence, all being in their back pocket, right? And so we're living in a world where that's falling apart. We've seen it with Arab Spring. We're seeing it with the democratization of money and the democratization of influence and information all around the world. We're seeing that. And one of the biggest tools is I've done my research and poured back in and found out it is best illuminated in I think it was in Shawshank Redemption, or it was or maybe it was The Castle. I can't remember which one it was, but the warden was up top and he was basically looking down and he radioed down and he said, look, take away all the basketballs except for one. Right. And so they took away all the basketballs. And what that did was it caused conflict amongst the people. Now there wasn't enough basketballs. And so they were fighting over who was going to have the basketball. And it ended up, causing a fist fight. And so what's happening? And then there's another movie about some hotel where the same thing happens, where it's like you take a loving person and a loving person and you pit them against each other. Now those two loving people will do inhumane things to each other because they think that there's a unitary choice, right? And so I'm building that to a place where we can very easily look at what's happening between Democrats and Republicans right now, right? Because there's this power struggle that one of them wants to win, and that's never been the outcome prior to 50 years ago. The outcome was to fight the battles in the middle so you don't have to fight them with guns. And that's what makes America unique is that a Republican, a Democrat, they come together, progressive, whatever the side of it is that you are. And in the middle is an idea that comes out that this person doesn't get everything they want. This person doesn't get what they want. And sometimes there's a better idea in the middle, right? We're now in the world of personally destroying human beings so that we can win the game. Now, my question to you guys is, number one, if we understand, I'm not going to play the game. If there's one basketball, okay, good. That's fine. I'm going to figure out somebody's trying to manipulate me, right? If there's a unitary choice, I have to be a Democrat or I have to be a Republican. And when I choose that side, now you suck, right? And you're the devil and you have to be destroyed because ultimately you're evil. So now, if I pull myself above that, even if it's just this one conversation, and I say, I'm not going to participate in identity politics. I'm not going to participate in personal destruction. But in the environment where that's pervasive, what piece of advice do I use to strengthen my separation from that mindset enough so that I can remain separated from it and I don't go back to it psychologically, right? Because when you separate yourself from the crowd, sometimes that's a bit lonely. So I guess the question would be more concisely, when you decide to leave the sheeple of the world who are all headed to slaughter, and you decide to step into a leadership role, what's the best tool that you have to deal with the loneliness and the doubt and the separation anxiety that happens when you start to forge your own path? Paul, I'm going to go with you first.
It's what we call a systemic dilemma. The brain's most basic level of operation is in all or nothing, dualistic thinking. And it creates a physiological need to be right. It's not just that we need to be right because we think we are. We need to be right because we feel it in a way that we would feel dehydration if we just walked through a desert. And it creates major issues. What you started to say there at the end made me think of Tommy Lee Jones' line in Men in Black when he told Will Smith that a person is smart, but people are stupid. And as we start to identify our value as a person rather than this abstract concept of people that can be so manipulative, seeking acceptance, and so manipulative in the way we perceive judgment and all these different things, it can feel very lonely until we choose to do what I've watched you do, Jason, what I think you do as well as anyone. And that is until we give permission for other people to find themselves as a person as well. And it's not for us to know how long that's going to take. But if we separate from the crowd and we immediately start looking at our watch going, okay, so when are a few people going to start separating off and come join my tribe of trying to find their independence? I've experienced this in a lot of different areas of my life where my wife and I stopped, attending services that were very important to us at one point because we didn't like how we were received. We didn't like the way it was cliquey and other people, and it was a religious experience. But then we went away from where we live now and came back, and they hadn't changed, but we had gotten to go find our uniqueness, our worthiness, our pricelessness as human beings. And so we came back unaffected by the people, the abstract idea, and more focused on a person. And it was amazing to watch person after person come out of the woodwork because we had given ourselves permission to be a person, not a Unitarian, all or nothing. That's the challenge, is we think it's being right or wrong about an idea. That's not how your lower brain, your core brain is operating. It's operating as, if I'm not right, I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm nothing. I don't exist. I'm worthless. You may not intellectually think that, but that's why we get so emotionally caught up in these conversations. That's why politics have destroyed more holidays than, whatever, all kinds of stuff. So getting the opportunity to be able to step back from that and really own you as a person without any expiration date for how long you're going to do it. Not going, I wonder when other people are going to join me so I don't feel so alone. You miss the point. Those of you who would love to dive deeper, Brene Brown's Braving the Wilderness changed everything in this area for me. When she wrote a whole book themed after, what's her name? Like famous poet. She just passed away a year or two ago, or in the last couple of years, where she said that you don't belong anywhere. And that's where you find your sense of belonging, and is in not needing to belong anywhere. Then you can belong everywhere.
That's our misfit nation, baby.
Yeah. And it's a really beautiful thing. Not so you can stick your nose up at society, not so you can be like, I'm independent, just like everybody else.
Right.
It's
everybody's special, nobody is.
Yeah, exactly. It's not seeking nonconformity just so you can conform with nonconformists. It's really a deep journey, and realizing that, damn it, being right is overrated. Like, it just really is. Being able to connect with people is everything.
Yeah. Being
right only matters once people feel understood, and identifying your personal worth. And the greatest way to do that is to start honoring everybody else's. And that's something I've really appreciated about you, Jason, is you live loudly, but you don't make anyone else feel bad for living who they are. And you get fired up when you see someone pretending to live how they are, and it's not really who they are. And giving yourself permission to do that. I mean, that's that goes back to all three. That eliminates doubt. That addresses becoming a great leader. I mean, that comes full circle in our whole conversation.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Paul. How about you, Dave?
I remember, wasn't that long ago, goth was kind of the thing for the kids, you know. I'm an independent and everybody's dressed in black, you know. It's kind of a challenge. I go back to Mandino when he said in Scroll 2, the greatest secret of success in all ventures, that's politics, religion, that's everything, business, is love. And it's a special kind of love. It's agape love. Greeks had eros, pia, philo, agape, erotic, motherly, brotherly. Agape, a heightened level of awareness. We're inviting people to live at a heightened level of awareness, to see people, to really see them. He said, muscle can split a shield and even destroy life. And you think about where we are right now in our political environment. But only the unseen power of love, agape love, can open the heart. And until I master this art, I'm no more than a peddler in the marketplace. Paul took us into a really interesting place with all or nothing thinking, right, wrong, win, lose, life, death, this systemic thinking. It's the lowest level of math. It's the lowest level of math. And when we're in that space, two things are happening. One, they are all or I am nothing. We take it one step further. This came out of our research with our assessments. Oh my goodness. We teach this in publicly traded corporations and change silos in organizations because somebody has to be right. They have such a strong opinion. That makes the other person wrong. But what we didn't know was the impact it directly has on their self-esteem. That it pushes the same buttons that person pushes themselves. It may call into question their very worth as a human being, their ability, their character, their contribution, the value of their contribution, past mistakes. And you look at our political agenda, the reason why we're not coming together is I'm right, you're wrong, I get my self-esteem hurt. And now we're not in a conversation about issues. We're in a conversation about self-esteem preservation. And you look at a Republican and a Democrat taking, drawing the line in the sand. I'm not sure we're talking about climate control anymore if these two people are screaming, or abortion, or whatever it might be. It's self-esteem preservation. It's become deeply personal because to agree with that person's opinion, I have to be nothing. Well, Paul and I teach the world, let's get out of systemic thought and go into extrinsic thought, where we're looking for the good in a person's idea. We don't have to agree with it, just find something good in it. And from an intrinsic perspective, because they're a human being, they're priceless. Let us point out the part that we saw that we liked best. What I like best about your idea is what that does, because the idea 249 out of 250 times is attached to their self-esteem. I just found good in them as a human being. Now their wall can come down, their cooperation can flood out, and we can have the conversation. But politically right now, particularly politically, there is no taking down walls. It is just arrow, spear, rocket bomb, arrow, spear, rocket bomb. Everybody's living in a systemic world. And if we're not careful, we'll go where you said a little while ago. It could get violent. We could have killing in the street over some of these issues. And it's not the issue. Why would someone kill somebody over an issue?
They won't.
Self-esteem preservation. We're trying to turn somebody into nothing. Yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of, there's a couple of things there's that line of thought, it takes you to, how could during Auschwitz, right? How could those soldiers and the people that were gassing all those people, how could they possibly bring themselves? How could they possibly bring themselves to do the horrific things that they did? And part of the training that they got was that they were doing it for a higher cause, which meant that they could that would override their sense of morality, because there was a higher calling, right, which was country and
justifies the means.
Yeah. And one of the things that when you did my live assessment, which is still available, by the way, over on Anton J on Facebook, when you did that, you said the thing that I like about your idea is that sentence is a game changer, right? It's a game changer because, and then tie that together with what you said about agape love, right? Agape love I'm also interested in erotic love, by the way. I just want to throw that in there, but agape love.
Eros.
Eros, yeah. So, but agape love, and we talk about, when somebody says, oh, you just got to love more, right? It feels like this woo kind of
warm and fuzzy,
airy,
yeah,
like percent, but it takes a warrior to love. It takes a warrior to be able to reduce your ego low enough to say, the thing I love about your idea, even in your mind, you're going, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Screaming, don't do it. They'll think you agree with them and you won't get your way.
And you watch those interviews that are going on between talking heads that have the party lines down. And because the micro expressions and human understanding about these kind of things that are happening 90% of the time on both sides of the aisle, what they're saying, they definitely don't believe. They know what they're spouting is absolute nonsense, spin zone bull crap. And you can see it. It's all like, I feel like every time they say these things, they're sacrificing a bit of their soul, as opposed to what you said, which is agape love. That's what takes power. It takes real, genuine power to look at somebody that is coming at you and trying to destroy your, like, this is the thing. If you can't take this, right? Going back to Man's Search for Meaning, right? With Viktor Frankl, he said, I was more free than my captors because they can't take what's going on up here. They can't control what's going on up here, and they can't take it. And so if you have so much certainty in the idea that no matter what happens in the next moment, you're going to be able to overcome it, and you're going to be able to take what's happening in front of you and craft that into a benefit for you and the world at large, you get away from where I used to be in my youth, was if you looked at me incorrectly, I'm coming for you. You know what I mean? I'm coming for you, because you will not, because my ego, my self-esteem was really, really tiny, and I had to overwhelm that with physical violence and abuse and all the other stuff that came along with it. As I've gotten older, the harder job is to love. The harder job is to love. And then you start to enjoy it, right? When I go out and when I meet Misfit Nation people, I'm sitting across the table from some of them going, you are weird as shit. like what is, and I'm like, I'm in love with this person because they're so radically different than my concepts, and I'm just loving the experience. So tying those two things together is really brilliant. That when you say the words, what I really love about your idea is, that's agape love, and it takes guts, right? It takes a backbone. It takes certainty in knowing who you are and being able to stand in your own strength. So I love that. You guys both gave great answers to that.
Jason, it's a really simple equation. At its core, agape, my favorite synonym for it is accuracy. Not turn the other cheek, not unconditional, accuracy. And if you want to see someone accurately, you inadvertently love them. You automatically love them. If you don't love someone, you don't want to see them accurately. Period. End of story.
See them as they see themselves, and then you can better walk in their shoes. Right? I love that. Well, cool. Let's wrap it up. This has been awesome. We know each other. We could go on for 15 hours here if we wanted to, but I want to wrap it up. I want to be cognizant of you guys' time. I think you have added, as I said at the beginning of this, you guys were going to come in here and add a ton of value. Tell them, I know you have a gift for everybody on the Habit Finder side, and then also explain to people how they can get a hold of you and how they can participate in some of the work that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. So, I mean, definitely a pleasure to be on here and to get an opportunity to spend some time in this. And remember kind of watching all this come into fruition as you were building this and taking this on, which is super awesome. Our gift is we'd love to give everybody listening to this podcast an opportunity to take the Habit Finder for free, to be able to participate in getting an opportunity to measure that unhealthy habits of thinking voice, that true voice, the deficits between the two, the risks, not the good or the bad. We just want to measure the risks risks aren't necessarily good or bad. It's how we manage them and how we use them and how aware of them we are that matter. And it's also, as we've talked about here, it's as far upstream as you can get. If we can change the way you're thinking, we've got to start by allowing you to become aware of it first. Join the conversation going on up here, and then you can start to participate in that conversation. And eventually you can build the thinking habits and the principles and practices in place that we teach that allow you to dictate that conversation. That's everything. And
how do they find it?
Go to habitfinder.com/Jason. So if you go to habitfinder.com/Jason, just so we know that you're a part of this tribe, you found out about us through this podcast, so we can make sure you guys get taken care of, so we can make sure that
make sure you don't have to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you get the assessment for free so that we can send you some extras and some goodies, those of you who want to take this a little bit deeper. Great opportunity to know, so that when we do have promotions we give into our inner circle, that we can make sure people that took the assessment through habitfinder.com/Jason get included in those offers. And so, yeah, definitely would be happy to serve anyone that wants to go a little bit deeper. And our team, our Habit Finder specialists, are given marching orders of show up and serve, because we know that if we can show you what's going on up here and show you what those conversations sound like, that if you can see a clear picture of what understanding that can do for you, then you'll start the conversation about engaging us. We don't need to sell you on that. So great opportunity to dive deep for free. And then if that serves you, we can explore other options. But let's just start with helping you learn more about this conversation first at habitfinder.com/Jason.
Awesome. I want to leave the same way I came in, with everybody understanding that, if you're looking for that leadership, if you're looking for that individual process to be able to move yourself forward, and you've been looking for that thing as an individual, right, that will give you a fighting chance to overcome those things that keep showing up in your life, then my stamp of full approval, the Bald Avenger, Jason Cisneros, all of my personalities approve of these guys. Anton J, whoever I'm speaking as in that particular moment, but I approve of you guys. Do you guys have any parting shots? Anything that you'd like to say on exit?
Summer's coming, Jason. Finally. Bear Lake is calling us, is it not?
It is. It's calling us. There's a beach somewhere.
That's right.
So thank you guys very, very much for being here. I appreciate you. Part of my family. I love you guys. Can't wait to see you again. And to your team, Bobby Gallegos, and everybody that's on your team. I love your company. I love you as individuals. I love, more than both of you combined, I love your wife and, Dave, because I haven't gotten to know your wife all that well, Paul, except for I know she's got to be exceptional to put up with you. All right. You're on mute, bro. You're on mute. Yeah.
I was just saying 100%. Yeah. I'm not easy to be married to. I understood that a long time ago.
Awesome. All right, guys. So thank you very, very much.
You, Jason.
I appreciate you all very much. And to the Bald Avenger Nation, remember, go to baldavengershow.com and subscribe, share it with your friends. Bald Avenger on Facebook, on the Bald Avenger Official on Instagram, and on YouTube, the Bald Avenger, and then also on Twitter. Just follow us everywhere. We got a lot of busy schedule and a lot of amazing guests. And I believe that Paul and I and Dave will be on a stage together for sure in November for the Dawn of Hope Part 2. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have an amazing day.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.